Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of On the Paint Table. This is my weekly show where you see what I got done, what I'm working on, and what is coming up. So this week, I painted about 14 models. Not the big week like last week where I got those Stormcast done, and there's a whole lot on my painting table, of course, another 39 models that I'm working on right now for my Cruel Boys for Age of Sigmar. But I took a break in between the Cruel Boys and the Stormcast to kind of cleanse my palette and paint some other stuff. I painted some very old spaceship models. I painted some cool new stuff for Elder Scrolls Call to Arms, and I collected and built a whole bunch of things for a bunch of various other projects. I also got a cool sample from Games Workshop of the new Acadian Shock Troops. They sent that to me for free to check out the new accessory frame that comes in the box that gives you a whole bunch of different weapon options. So I popped that open for you guys to see too. I also collected some sprues, trying to decide what I want to add next to my new Stormcast color scheme. Obviously, we've seen new point values from the General's Handbook, but I'm kind of waiting on what the new rules are before I jump left to right. Some things like the Celestar Ballista, I think I'm pretty safe to paint. Other things like, well, what am I going to make my 3 other battle line choices out of? I'm still kind of hemming and hawing over. So anyway, let's take a look at what got done and what is coming up. So first things first, I painted a dozen new models for Elder Scrolls Call to Arms for their new expansion of dungeon crawling called Into the Dark to go with the Civil War card pack for Elder Scrolls. So I painted up all the new resin Draugr models. You get 3 Draugr warriors with just swords, some Restless Draugr with shields and axes, some Hulking Draugr with shields and with like a hand axe. You get another Draugr Overlord, this time casting like a Hadouken spell, and then last but not least a Death Lord, which is like their final form, Super Draugr. I painted these up with a gray base coat, just some gray primer, and then kind of blocked in all the colors I wanted before I hit them with a Null and Oil gloss wash, and then went back and highlighted all the stuff. The nice thing about the Draugr is they're literally just mummies. They're like Nord mummies that have been buried bajillions of years ago on Skyrim, or probably hundreds of years ago on Skyrim, and then reanimated with magic. So they actually really, in the video game, do look like this. They have like a really muted palette. And so they're super quick to paint up as bad guys. This guy's got like a bunch of like bisected Draugr bits on his base. I added some verdigris with some of the, I think it's Nikolite Oxide from Games Workshop. Mix a little bit of, I like to have it hit the recesses a little bit harder, so I mix in a bit of gloss varnish at the same time. And I put that patina on the metallics, and then, like I said, just went through and rebased or touched up everything. The bases were dry brushed with some gray sear, and then I hit that with a Agrex Earthshade wash. And then dry brushed it with a bit of gray sear again once it was dry. And then finally just added some of these frozen tufts from Army Painter. So super easy to do. I used Privateer Press's P3 Eldritch for the eyes, and then mixed like a dot of white into it just to finish it off. And I think it's whatever Brazen Brass is called now, Brass Scorpion maybe, for the brass bits, a bit of iron, lead belcher, and then like Stormhost Silver for the metallics. And everything else is just kind of a nice muted, we're a zombie palette. And then I decided to paint something different, so I had another adventure. I painted Carjo, the Caravan Guard, a Kadjit. I mean, you can't have Elder Scrolls without some of the weirder characters. And so I wanted to paint this guy first. He's one of the new playable hero characters for your adventures. There's also like an Orc Barbarian, a Breton Ranger, like tons of other things. And you can either sub in these character models as, especially the generic ones, as your Dragonborn. And have a Dragonborn that's kind of like more like your Dragonborn from when you played the video game, if you did play the video game. Because you can use literally any model as a Dragonborn if you want. There is like 2 Dragonborn models, but there's no reason you can't just say, this is my Dragonborn if you want to. And then that's what I'm actually going to do in this game. I'm going to use this Kadjit as a Dragonborn and have like a cat person, because why not? And this was painted, it's like on a beach for some reason, with a little campfire, partying down at the beach. And was painted with the same base coat. I added in again some, I think that it's the Necron, something armor, something color, Cryptek something. And then, Agrex Earthshade for the armor, picked up with some Stormhost Silver afterwards. Again, some Iron Blaster for all the metal, steel bits. And then Mournfang Brown, hung it up through XV88, I think, for the fur. A little bit of old Hawk Turquoise, maybe Scaly Green for the clothing. And everything was just done with washes. And then it was the Dunes. No, not Dunes. God, I hate trying to remember all the new names for paints. Yeah, it was a beige. And then how with a lighter beige and a bit of white for the sand. I just go white color. I can't remember names. But anyway, a dozen new miniatures done. I got lots of new hero models to paint too for different various adventures, and I'm excited to check out this procedurally generated dungeon crawler for Into the Dark. Another for funsies project this week was to start going through the bookshelf game series from Games Workshop, starting with Space Fleet. This is a classic ship battle game that it's a precursor for Battlefleet Gothic, if you ever played that. And had some very cool plastic ships. I'm just showing you one unassembled here. There was Eldar Corsairs, and then these are the old Imperial cruisers that a lot of people call the Gloriana class because it kind of looks like a pre-heresy cruiser. And you can see here there was lots of these design elements that went forward into, eventually into Battlefleet Gothic. So I basically did both of these from a Wraithbone base coat on like a cocktail skewer. I did this one with Apothecary White, and that one with the Yandon, whatever the Eldar yellow is, and then just pick up the details afterwards. A nice easy paint scheme, and very nice plastic models for being from like 91, so 30 years old. Not a bad miniature for that day and age, and they came in blue and red plastic back then. Did some more assembly. I did the Kadjit Thief, and then a Breton Ranger, some like additional hero types. You can see I just put some gray primer on them, some Rust-Oleum gray primer. I assembled some Eldritch Horrors for, we're doing Blaster 3's sort of like lead up right now, and I want to do some stuff from the Mythos expansion for Rangers of Shadowdeep and Frostgrave. So I put together a Hound of Tindalos and a Gug. These Mark Thurr was nice enough to send these to me. He printed these for me, and I'm going to paint them up for the Mythos stuff. And then this Wendigo I'm probably going to use in Forbidden Psalm, because I needed a Wendigo mini, and it's a super cool Wendigo model. I went in my bits box and just tried to see what I had unassembled for my Stormcast. I have some Vanguard Paladors that I want to paint. They're actually pretty good with spears. The Cav, they do some cool mortal wound stuff in their attacks. I have another Lord Castellant I might do up in the new color scheme. I've got a whole bunch of Castigators, but I also found some arms from Judicators. So I might actually convert some Castigators into Judicators and do like a Sacrosanct Judicator unit using these arms and bows, because these bits will easily go on to the Castigators to make them Adjudicators for my additional battle line. So that's my first thought, is 150 points for battle line. Make myself a couple units of Judicators, and then I have a unit of Castigators in here as well if I do decide to paint a Lord Arcanum and another Celestar Ballista. So I think my plan is to start off, I'm going to paint I'm going to convert 2 units of Judicators out of the Castigators, because I don't see Castigators becoming very good. And I have lots of, you get like a free Castigator model with every Big Mac in this box. And I do happen to have 2 frames of like 10 Chalkbook Bowls that I could build and paint. And then yeah, that's gonna round out my 3 battle lines, and then probably the Ballista, because it's 300. The Ballista would be 425, and that would leave me with 140 plus 75 with 215. So maybe I'll paint the Paladors too, and that would take me to an even 2,000 for my new Stormcast. It's 140 to 215. They're 185. I have 30 points left. I could buy an endless spell or something. Again, like I said, I was lucky enough to get a sample of the new Cadian Shock Troop box, the 10-man box from Games Workshop. They sent me a little free sample to check out this new frame. And it reminds me a lot of the Catachan Command Squad frame. You get a nice little sniper, a long las there, a bolt pistol for the sergeant, a melta-gun, a plasma gun, a bolter for the sergeant, a power sword for the sergeant. And there's a flamer and grenade launcher on these original 10-man frames. These are just the exact same old Cadian frames. And then you get a bunch of different heads, which are very cool because you get both male and female heads, because obviously when you're wearing guard armor, like Cadian armor, you're not going to be able to see a silhouette that's any different. And also a bunch of gas mask heads that are super cool. So like a gas mask one, a bunch of monocles, and like eye patches. This guy's got like some kind of weird camo on his head. Some yelling faces, and just like a more variety of heads, because I'll be honest, when these came out, these were amazing, but they are the exact same face almost 6 times on every frame. So you had Vox guy and then 5 of basically the same face in slightly different expressions. So to have some variety, I think is super cool. And obviously it's a repack, which means that they're probably going to charge more for it, but I'm going to paint these up as a kill team, I think. Just make myself a cool Cadian kill team to play some kill team with going forward into the future. It's interesting. I'm excited to see what happens with kill team, because Ninth Ed obviously is a bit different, and they haven't really updated kill team since then. It's a standalone game, so you don't really need to have the 2 go hand in hand, but I'd be interested to see what happens if these guys change. Marines get 2 wounds, stuff like that. So these are a very cool, like, series of, like, I love that guy's, like, goggle head. And then she's got an eye patch, which is super cool. And this one's got goggles as well. These are also going to be great fodder for Necromunda. So I might even use these to, like, convert up some stuff for Necromunda too. So I got another on the paint table done and on the books. Another 14 models painted this week. Lots of things on the go. Tell me what you think about that plan. I feel like 2 units adjudicators is just never a bad plan. Shock bubbles are amazing. Having things can reach out 24. They get a 3+ save maybe in the new book. I'm happy with that. And if they're core battle line, I doubt they would make a change like that in General's Handbook and not have that be reflected in the new battle tome. So yeah, I'm excited about that. I feel like I want to just round out that cool new Stormcast army to 2,000 points. And of course, hopefully I'm going to be able to power through the rest of the Crow Boys too, and you'll see them soon. So big thanks for watching. We'll see you next week for what gets done. Till then, I'm Ash. Have a good night. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to support the channel, of course, like and subscribe and hit the little bell below so you get notifications when I post future content. I do post stuff 7 days a week. If you want to support the channel further, you can, of course, buy a t-shirt through Spreadshirts, buy a measuring gauge or objective markers from Death Ray Designs, or, of course, most importantly, there is Patreon. Patreon is what makes all this possible, keeps the lights on, pays for the studio costs, pays for the equipment, model costs, and everything else, and most importantly, puts food in my kids' bellies and a roof over their heads. Big thanks to everyone, past, future, who supported me. I do this stuff because of you guys, and of course, I will continue doing it as long as I can.